Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. Thank you for joining me wherever you are joining me. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. And if you're joining me on the YouTube channel, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. I hope you all had a fantastic weekend, that you got everything that you were looking for out of the weekend. I, unfortunately, did not. I had to watch a video of Cam Newton fighting off multiple people who were looking to jump him at a 7-on-7 event. A 7-on-7 event, by the way, that is boosted, that is bolstered because he's there. Now, I feel like it's important for me to go back and kind of give you the genesis of why I have such an issue with 7-on-7 football. It is not because I dislike 7-on-7. In fact, I love 7-on-7. I love the concept of giving me as a coach the opportunity to work on my passing game in a position where nobody has to get hurt, right? That's the entire point of 7-on-7. Like if you're doing 7-on-7s in your high school and you are doing 7-on-7 where people are getting hit, then I'm not saying you're doing it wrong, but that kind of wasn't the genesis of what 7-on-7 or what Skelly was supposed to be. It was supposed to be to work on your passing game, to work on your perimeter game. And so then when colleges started doing 7-on-7 events, they were very popular. And you would take your team to them, and it was another opportunity to compete. It was a bonding experience for your team. You had fun, but you were competitive, right? And then something happened along the way. ESPN, which started dabbling into high school sports, they did a 7-on-7 where they brought the best high schools from around the country to compete in 7-on-7. And it was fantastic, right? Like you could your team could earn an opportunity to go and compete in 7-on-7 as a team, running your team concepts, doing your things for your team to get better for your regular season. But the success of that then flipped it next year to where instead of them bringing in the best teams, they just brought in the best players, and then they created teams with the quarterbacks from their Elite 11 camp. So now, instead of seeing these teams get to work together, we got to see individuals play. And someone saw that, man, this is big businesses. These colleges are doing this. These colleges are doing this. We could do this. Why can't we do this? And all of a sudden, the 7-on-7 circuit was born. I've never understood this about 7-on-7. And maybe some of you guys out there can help me, because I know that there are a lot of people who follow me on Facebook and Twitter and on my YouTube page, Coach Gene Clemens. I know that there are a lot of you out there that swear by 7-on-7, that thinks that 7-on-7 is in many ways more valuable than the regular season, or just as valuable as the regular season. But I want you to answer me this. If every 7-on-7 is a national championship, then who's truly the national champion? I've watched as there was a national championship down in Florida, a national championship in Georgia, a national championship in Texas, a national championship in Georgia, and they bring in all the teams But I'm like, but if there are multiple national champions in the same sport, then how do you really have a national champion? The answer is, by the way, you can't. It's all just marketing. Make it look big, make it look extravagant, make it look good. All of a sudden now, the uniforms are important in your 7-on-7. You got to look fly. And again, I'm with it because I like looking fly. The uniforms are important. The celebrations are important. But you know what's not important? It's not important to have linebackers playing linebacker. Nope. We're going to play all 7 DBs at these linebacker positions. We're not going to run real and legitimate defensive coverages because we're working on our coverages for the season. Because guess what? We're not working on our coverage for the season. So my cornerback that wants to play for the 7-on-7 team, if he is not amongst the 2 starting cornerbacks or even the 2 starting safeties, he's going to play a linebacker role, something that he is never going to do, not once, for me in season. So his reads, his steps, how he approaches defending, it's all different. Yeah, coach, but what about when he's playing man-to-man? You got him, going everywhere. You got to practice playing man-to-man on the inside. There's always one goal, right? If I have a guy playing man-to-man, it doesn't matter whether he is on the outside or whether he is on the inside. Nothing changes. I want him to filter people to one side. I want him to give the receiver a one-way go. I want him to be in a position where he can't get beat here. Doesn't matter whether he's outside or inside. So there's nothing that's helping that cornerback doing that for 7-on-7. But you want to know what else I don't like about it? Besides the unrealistic defense and the guys running routes through what would be the offensive line. You know what I don't like? The quarterback sitting back just super comfortable because, he never gets pressured in 1 second. He never has to diagnose plays super quickly. What else I don't like is the fact that there is a hubris, there is a cockiness, there's an arrogance amongst many of the 7-on-7 coaches and people associated with that 7-on-7. And then that gets trickled down to the players. And then somebody somewhere will say, oh, well, that's swagger. That's, you know what I'm saying? Why are you mad at our hype? How we getting hype? How our swagger, what we do? It's not swagger. It's arrogance. I've seen this from a 7-on-7 team, and I won't call a team out, but if I get smoke from the team or from somebody from this team, I will 100% call them out. Anybody who knows me, you should know by now. I don't care, right? I'm very Cam Newton with this. We'll talk about that in a second. But this 7-on-7 team posts an alumni, right? So they boost themselves by talking about their alumni. And of course, their alumni is a bunch of kids who went on to play like high-level college football. But if you do just a little bit of research on when those kids joined that 7-on-7 team, they were already him. So what did the 7-on-7 team do? What did the 7-on-7 team do? I can tell you as a high school coach, you rarely get a player who walks in as a bona fide Division I talent. You rarely get a player who walks in who already has offers. And to the high school teams that do get those players, congratulations. But for the most part, of those 30, 40, 50, 100, 135 kids that you may have out in your program, you got to develop something. And so then the high school team develops and develops and develops and nurtures the talent. And the talent might show itself early, The talent might show itself late, but you know what they all do? They all run to try to be on somebody's 7-on-7 team. And then the 7-on-7 team starts taking credit for what the player does. The 7-on-7 team starts taking credit for the offers that the player has. The 7-on-7 team starts to want to take the shine from the players. They want to have a picture of the player posted up, name, image, and likeness. They want to have the image of the player. They want to have videos of the player. They want to be doing all this stuff that boosts the player. You know why? Because they know that that player is going to attract other players. And through all this, these 7-on-7 coaches, right? These 7-on-7 handlers are just sitting back collecting money. Very similar to soccer and baseball and any of the stick and ball sports that we have long known. Basketball for its off-season travel league. It has become big business for coaches. And here's the crazy part. We've put in systems. We have systems in place now that don't allow high school football coaches, the high school head coach, the high school assistant coach to create their own 7-on-7 teams. You know why they say? Because you might entice or you might convince a player to come play for you in a real season. And so now the coach that spends the majority of the time working with training, troubleshooting, disciplining, all of that, those are the guys that never get a chance to reap any benefits from their hard work. Some of those same 7-on-7 coaches will also be doing private training. And shout out to the private trainers out there that I know that are bona fide monsters at their job. Bona fide monsters. I know probably the best DB coach, if not in the Southeast, in the country. I know one of the best wide receivers coaches, if in the Southeast, if not the country. I am proud to call them friends, to call them colleagues, to call them coach. But then I know a whole bunch of other dudes that I would not let train my worst player, let alone get a hold of my best talents to teach them things that don't actually work in a real football game. The way that some of these kids are playing in the 7-on-7, I would 100% cook you in a real football game because you are not doing anything that's transferable to a real legitimate football game. Y'all out there cheating the system because you know it's a pass. I see highlights of DBs who are supposedly pressing the wide receiver, and yet all they do is grab hold them and then push them out of bounds, and then they want to go and strap the seatbelt on like they doing something. That's a penalty. I'm watching physical contact beyond 5 yards after a couple of seconds. Guys coming up, throwing the seatbelt on like you just did something. Yo, that's a pass interference. That's not real football. And if you do that in real football, if you do that in real football, what happens is you end up getting pass interference calls. You get frustrated. You start complaining. You get in your head, and now we strike you for a touchdown. Because you're not smart enough to understand how to play the game the way the game is supposed to be played, because some 7-on-7 coach told you, yo, you about to go viral. And this is what we have to subject our young men to. It's gotten to the point where every time I see a young, talented football player out there playing on 7-on-7, I get worried for them. If it's not with their real legitimate high school, I see kids miss 7-on-7 events with their high school so they can go and play 7-on-7 events with their travel team. Somebody make it make sense. I have seen 7-on-7 coaches try to mentor and tell 7-on-7 players, hey man, you shouldn't do this for your team because that's not going to help you. When has helping you ever been more than helping the team? Because if the team is successful and you are a part of that success, you will undoubtedly get credit. I have watched as teams have gone far and players who were not as good get better offers, more looks, more opportunity because they were on that team. You get more coaches at your school when your team is successful. I've watched 7-on-7 coaches try to convince players they need to transfer from the school where they got their shot, where they became who they were, where they started to get their shine, to go transfer to another school because that other school was going to be better for them. If 7-on-7 matters that much, if 7-on-7 is that much a part of the lexicon of football now, where you don't have to be loyal to your high school, where you can get your shine off 7-on-7. They got all of these exposure camps. They've got everything that you can do to get yourself out there if you want to be seen. Why do you have to change schools too? Oh, these high school coaches ain't doing nothing for these players. What do you want the high school coach to do for them? You want them to tackle? You want them to catch? You want them to throw? You want them to block? You want them to cover? The unrealistic expectation of the high school coach has gone so far that we are legitimately acting as if these 7-on-7 coaches have a real legitimate impact in a kid's life. And most times they don't. Most times they do not. If you're a high school football player, you are with your actual team coach from springtime, right, all the way through until dang near the year is over. That means from April, maybe even earlier because you're doing workouts, March, February. From February until late November, early December, you are with your high school football coach. And then for a month and some change at the beginning of the year, and then maybe a couple of weeks in the summertime, all of a sudden now you are on your 7-on-7 team. Hype Express ATL. I'm trying to make up names, right? Florida Vision, the Tennessee Movers, the San Jose Sand Nets. Like, all of a sudden you're on this 7-on-7 team and you're supposed to be lit. You're supposed to be hyped. Y'all are going around. Y'all are traveling to see places. They're taking you places, right? No, you're taking you places. That 7-on-7 package, because most of your 7-on-7 teams are not legitimately sponsored by anybody where they float the bill. You float the bill. How much did that 7-on-7 kit that you wearing, where they all of a sudden got you out there in the tights and the top, like you about to go run in a track meet to go play football? How much did that cost? How much did you pay for that full sublimated uniform? Do you pay for the entries to all of these events? Hey, how about this? How many people does your 7-on-7 team have on the team? If you have if you have 15 players, right? If you have 20 players on a 7-on-7 team, and all of y'all are playing, all of you are paying $500 packages, and one 7-on-7 costs $500 to compete in, then where's the rest of the money going? I'm not saying people shouldn't be compensated. I'm cool with that. But let's not act as if the 7-on-7 team is taking you anywhere. You can take your same $500 and go wherever it is they're taking you to. You know why? Because you got to pay for travel anyway. You got to pay for lodging anyway. It's such a racket in these things. And if your 7-on-7 team is one of the few teams that is sponsored, guess why they're sponsored? It's because you play for them. It's not because they made you something. That sponsorship is only with the team because the team is bringing in legitimate names. The moment that team no longer brings in legitimate names, guess what they're not going to have? A sponsorship. And yet they're out here taking credit for every kid as if they just made people. As if they just came out of nowhere. Yo, look what we did. Look how I made this person better. This person who's not playing football, who's playing a game that is not real football, doing things that are not transferable to football, and yet somehow I made this person. Yet somehow this person was done through me. This is what we see. This is what we see. And so now we get a guy like Cam Newton who wants to come into this space, who does not have any money to gain from this. His 7-on-7 programs are not there for him to make money off of. Why? He's already rich. The 7-on-7 programs are not there for him to get shine off of. You know why? He's already famous. So now this man who is already rich and already famous is amongst the people. He don't go out there with security. He ain't walking around. He ain't walking around out there with security. He ain't walking around with people around him to make sure that he's insulated from the people. He's out there to be a part of that 7-on-7 climate, and he loves it. He loves it, right? He's out there in front of you, and you know what people do? They try him. Somehow along the way, you guys have forgotten that it does not matter what somebody is wearing. It does not matter how you might perceive them from the outside on whether or not they really about this work. I tell a story all the time, right? I tell a story all the time about a gentleman that I knew as a kid, gentleman who was gay. And people used to pick on him for being gay. He ain't like it. And so you only had a couple words to say to him before he was going to turn around and beat your head in. And people quickly found out, oh, no. He is not to be played with. He is not, don't let it fool you that he wants to wear makeup or that he's out here living in a different lifestyle than what maybe you would be living. That doesn't mean he's soft. And I think that somewhere along the line, people thought that because Cam Newton was out here wearing crazy hats and tight clothes and scarves and jackets, they forgot that this man is from not just from some suburban Atlanta. He is from Atlanta. Somewhere along the line, they forgot that this man is not a human being. I'm gonna give you a story. When I was a kid, I used to I'm from Tampa. So when I was coming up, that was the same time that the Buccaneers were making their rise, right? They were going from being bad to good. And so I used to go to this YMCA. And at the YMCA, a lot of the Buccaneers players used to play. At this YMCA, a lot of the Buccaneers players used to play. And so we would be playing basketball and all of them would be there. And as a 15, 16, 17-year-old, 170 pound, 175 pound, 180 pound high school kid, 6'3", I never once felt any semblance of fear, right? I never was in awe of their size. Like Simeon Rice, he ain't really that big. He ain't really that tall. Warren Sapp, he was shorter than me. He was big. They were athletic. They were really athletic. It was the first time that I actually thought that I might have a chance of playing in the NFL, right? Because I was around all these NFL players. And they looked like me. They were just a little bigger. I was young. I was like, I can get that big, right? Fast forward now to who I am today. For you people who can't really tell because I'm sitting down and there's a screen around. I am legitimately 6'4" and all of 285 pounds. I don't look like an offensive lineman. I don't look like high school offensive linemen who tend to be dumpy, like round and pudgy. I'm not him. And with that, I am 100% keyed up and comfortable with these hands. I was at the Super Bowl this year, and I was standing eye to eye with J.J. Watt, who looked super intimidating when you see him play the game. I was looking eye to eye, and I was like, oh, J.J. Watt, not that bad, right? I went and I was next to Cam Newton, and Cam Newton looks intimidating when you are in front of him. He is all of 6'6". He is all of 200. He's probably 280 pounds right now. 270 pounds, 260. He is huge. Pause. This man is not a human being. I watched Cam Newton. I watched the remnants of Cam Newton get hit by a truck and then go out on a football field and score touchdowns shortly after. This is not the man that you want to try to start a fight with. And so these people, I won't even dignify them with names. I will just say that anytime you have on hoodies with expletives on them, and you're supposed to be at an event that's for kids, it says everything you need to know. So Cam, and I can only go off the footage that we see, right? Cam has his hands on somebody. Looks like he's mad at somebody. And then someone else comes and tries to sneak him out of nowhere. He, while engaged with one person, grabs the other person by the dreads. Hey, this is why you got to be careful with hair, right? Grabs the other dude by dreads and drags him across an area. Drags him across while still holding the other buddy in one hand. People are rushing him, trying to get on. He ain't seeing none of it. Why would you ever think that a man who could get hit by a truck and whose job was to take punches and hits from 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", 280, 295, 315 defensive lineman every single day, a man who never had an elite level offensive line, a man who never had receivers that just got open immediately all the time, so he had to make some magic happen, a man who has a show called 4th and 1, because on 4th and 1 it was automatically a first down because he was going to run it. Why do you think a man like that with the ego and the mindset of an NFL football player would have any issue with coming to find you. Would have any issue with coming to find you. That man would not have one issue with all the smoke that you want to have. You guys talk about standing on business all the time. That man stood on business. Them boys tried to jump him, and he said, I'm going to show you what jump is. And by himself, not with no whole bunch of people out there insulating him from the fight, fighting for him, by himself, beat up a couple people, and it could have been worse. He really could have hurt them dudes. And he would have been justified in it. Now, I don't know what the whole reasoning for the situation is. I can just tell you this. You're never going to have something sustained if the answer is to go at the stars. And everybody wants to be viral. So you know what I see at these 7-on-7s come out every time Cam Newton show up? I see kids. The same kids that I see like in my classroom. Same ages. I see them try to talk noise to Cam Newton. Try to disrespect Cam Newton. Cam Newton, being Cam, lets them know, bro, you not me. And you never gonna be me. Because that's what they deserve when you come at somebody of that high profile who is really there to make sure that you get the shine. How stupid can you be as a 7-on-7 organization, as a 7-on-7 league, as a 7-on-7 tournament, as a 7-on-7 player to not try to get wisdom from the man who made it out of inner city Atlanta all the way to the NFL, who has an entire 7-on-7 organization that draws the best and the brightest athletes from all across the area. I'm in Savannah. We got guys in Savannah playing for C1N up in Atlanta. They get the best and the brightest from all over. Why would you see that man and decide, yo, you know what I want to do? I want to try to get him mad so we can go viral, so I can put him on my socials. This generation of young people, they are the smartest, most intelligent. They got all the information, but they are common sense dumb. Common sense dumb. School has never been easier than what it is right now. And yet you've got some kids who still can't manage to get over a 3.0. And their high school coach is the only person holding them accountable for their grades, because the 7-on-7 coach doesn't care that they're walking around with a 2.3. The 7-on-7 coach doesn't care that they skip school every other day, that they've missed 35 days of school. The 7-on-7 coach don't care. The only thing the 7-on-7 coach does is say, oh, I'm keeping them off the streets. Are you? If you're allowing them to do the same street behavior as a representative of your organization, are you really keeping them off the streets? Or are you bringing the streets to the place that there should never be streets at? Somebody ain't going to be happy until someone gets shot at a 7-on-7 event. And now we're talking tragedy like we talk at these youth football events where you got to watch people because somebody might have a blicky in the pocket. You got to watch because somebody might have a poker in the pocket. You have to be careful on how you move in these 7-on-7 events now, because somebody might try to jump you at an event where it's supposed to be fun, right? You're supposed to be learning something. You're supposed to be getting exposure. Now the only exposure is, yo, who is that kid in the white? This is the exposure. I don't know nothing about this. If there's a kid in white that comes out of nowhere and just starts and just throws a punch. I can't tell if he throws a punch at Cam or at the person Cam's holding, but you know what I know? I know he wasn't in the fight. I know he shouldn't have been in the fight. So if the fight goes left and he gets shot and he dies, everybody's going to want us to feel bad for him. But you don't run 2 fights. I know that's what everyone tells you. Hey man, you can't be no hoe. You can't be no. If it's fighting, you gotta help your boys. You gotta protect your boys. This ain't nothing you gotta jump into. There's a bunch of adults around. There's security around that they can do the job. But all I'm thinking when I watch this video is, yo, I wonder who that kid in the white is. It stood out to me as plain as day. Yo, that kid in the white got to be careful. Because if I was a part of that and I, in my high school mind, saw that kid in the white jump into the fight with my people and he didn't have anything to do with it, guess what I'd be doing for the rest of the time? Trying to figure out a time to catch old boy in the white and give him some straightening. And now a 7-on-7 event that's supposed to be about football and getting people off the street has turned into street business. And when things turn into street business, people get killed. That's what happens. Let's keep a spade a spade. So now, what if Cam Newton decides, hey man, this 7-on-7 stuff ain't worth it. These kids don't appreciate it. They out here trying to make fun of me. They trying to talk. They're trying to get me hyped. They're trying to go viral off me for the negative reason. These coaches who most of them do not coach in high schools. Why? Because they don't meet high school requirements to coach. For whatever reason, they don't have mentalities that would allow them to coach in high school. For whatever reason, they out here acting ignorant. So now, why would I be involved? Why would I want to be involved in this? You know what? I'm going to take my resources, I'm going to take my name, and I'm going to apply it somewhere else. And now there is no C1N giving opportunities to players all over the place where they can be on a platform that's big that people can see them. There is none of that. Now, there is no Cam Newton at your favorite 7-on-7 event, bringing the cameras with him. Because you know Boogie going to have it live out there. There's none of that. This is what we are dealing with in this society. People don't know how to count their blessings. They're being extra with the extracurricular. They're being extra with it. And all the while, they're out here telling the high school coach that the high school coach don't know what he's talking about. That the high school coach doesn't really care. That the high school coach ain't doing enough for the kid. This is what you want me to do for your kid? This is what you want me to do? Take them to a 7-on-7 so they can act the fool or so that I can act the fool? On camera? With one of the most high-profile football players of the 21st century? Only to watch me get beat up on camera because I got into a fight with one of the most high-profile football players of the 21st century who also happens to be him? Man, y'all crazy. And yet people will be out here posting 7-on-7 clips like they really doing something. You want to know? 85% of the highlights that I see from 7-on-7, I never see those players make those same type of plays in a real football game. I know people who are competing in 7-on-7 events, shining, who will never actually play a high school football game. I know guys who are doing things and playing positions in 7-on-7 that they will never play in real football. You are outside linebacker, defensive end. You out at the 7-on-7 playing wide receiver. Why? You're never going to be a wide receiver. Even if you have fantastic stats as a wide receiver, guess what they're looking at you as at the next level? An outside linebacker or a defensive end. That's why you play there for your high school team, most likely. And I'm not saying that the high school coaches are without flaw, without fault. We have plenty of flaws. We have plenty of faults. But when you see a player spend $200, $300, $400 on their 7-on-7 package, and then you ask them to spend $50 on your high school football stuff, or $100 on your high school football stuff, or $200 on your high school football stuff. When you ask them to do fundraisers for your high school football team, when you ask them to be involved, when you ask the parents to be involved, and you get crickets, yet you turn around and you see the parent in the stands for the 7-on-7 stuff, you go, what are we doing? You're feeding your kid to the poison. If you don't like your high school coach, okay, cool, change high schools. But don't blame the high school coach when you haven't invested the same amount of time in that high school program and money as you do in that 7-on-7 program, as you do in that private trainer. That's not how the game works. Yo, most youth football costs money now. Most youth football you can't do for free. You're going to have to pay some money. Then y'all get to high school and forget that you had to pay for everything. And in high school, you don't want to pay nothing. You don't want to be involved in nothing. You don't want to do nothing. And then you feed your kids to the wolves of some of these 7-on-7 teams. And again, if it's not you, if this ain't what you do, then don't worry about what I'm saying. But the reason why many of you 7-on-7 coaches are going to get upset about what I'm saying is because you know this is you. You know you out here putting these kids' lives in jeopardy. That's Cam Newton. He has everything to lose. What if you did that to somebody that ain't got nothing to lose? He's straight to the car. He got it on him. Nobody thinks about this. They just act. And all of this intelligence that we have now, because we've got all of this information at our fingertips, we don't use it. I live in an area that's not big, that's not heavily populated. And yet, when I go to a high school football and basketball game, the police presence is astronomical. Why? Because there have been incidents at games that says we need to have a police presence heavy, not by the players, but by the people in the stands. And so now when I go to a football game or a basketball game in my area, it looks like a prison game. All of these police officers and sheriff's deputies all over the place. And then I go to a private school game and there's like one, maybe two. I go to a game outside of the city. We go and play a country team. There's one SRO in the gym. There might be a couple SROs or a couple police officers, police presence at a football game. Not 9, 10, 12, 8. Because once you bring the element, now we got to protect the most valuable people in the building, the kids. If the 7-on-7 place becomes a place where kids have to have their radar up because they never know when there's going to be a fight that breaks out, and we know how most fights end today because nobody wants to get beat up, then why would I ever want to send my kids over there? Some of y'all are out here thinking I'm exaggerating. Y'all think I'm ODing. I get it. I get it. Oh, some of y'all are saying, hey, I ain't got to worry about it. Mine's no better. No, they don't. No, they don't. All we hear about is some of the best kids, some of the kids who ain't never been in trouble, some of the kids who've never done anything wrong, great grades, blah, 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 blah. All of a sudden they got in trouble, or they got shot, or they got stabbed, or they got beat up, or they did this. Why? Because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Violence doesn't care who gets it. Violence just wants more violence. But them dudes got what they got. Not only did they catch an L for their issues, right? Now their entire organization is going to be red flagged when they go places. Oh, that's them? We don't need that money that bad. Now they're on the internet as being the guys who jumped Cam Newton only for Cam Newton to work them in the paint like Shaq, to laugh and smile while they trying to jump him, to have one dude under his arm like a baby while he ragdolling the other one around by his dreads. Congratulations, fellas. Guess what? Your face is going to be out there soon. You know why? Because the internet is undefeated. There are people right now who got nothing better to do with their time than to find out exactly who you are. Don't talk to me about no 7-on-7, man. Y'all took an event that I used to absolutely love and turned it into something I can't stand watching. Shame on you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. Do this thing a few times a week. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. And if you're joining me on the YouTube channel, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. Till next time, peace.